why is it that we're so incredulous over the fact that not more than 3% consider themselves skiers or snowboarders? I think we're so in deep with this that, oh shit, it's easy. This should be a lifestyle for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. How could you not? But, so is it just a perception issue that people in the public realm who aren't in it just see it as, there's these negative perceptions that we've always talked about.
Pricing is something that always comes up.
Yep.
And I don't know that it's perception. It might be reality. I mean, listen, Jay Peak is I would consider on the higher end of the spectrum in terms of, resort size,
Right.
And we've got an $84 lift ticket, and that is considered one of the lower ones for the high end. So what is that telling the industry? And I think, I'm not going to be somebody that bashes the aggregators and the big passes that are out there.
Yeah.
Because I could wake up tomorrow and we could be on one. So, but the reality is that as these passes get more resorts on there, and as these resorts then presumably want to sell more of those passes, there is every reason for them to increase their day rates, to create their arguments. And when all of your discounted ticket products are at some level connected to your window rate, right? So you set your window rate at X, your discount products are X minus Y. You start artificially bumping up those window rates, and those discount rates follow. The barrier to getting in the sport, just from a pricing perspective, not even talking about, available free time, not even talking about, can I get all of my kids in the same place at the same time, not talking about travel and pain of ass of putting boots on and all this other shit.
Yeah.
You're just looking at it from a pricing perspective. It starts to, people start to scratch their heads and say, can I move my family in this direction?
Right. It makes me think Greg Blanchard, who's just a great voice in the industry, and I got a lot of respect for. I wrote a post of his recently challenging that and reminding us of just how, the really small, the entry level ski hills. And I was just at Northeast Slopes here in Vermont. I was just driving along.
That place is awesome.
I fell upon this place, and I was like amazed in East Corinth, Vermont. And I drove by it. I was driving back from Waterville Valley to Burlington, and I drove past, did a U-E, drove back in, met with a guy. Talked with him. He would talk my ear off for 2 hours.
They're like, holy shit, somebody wants to talk to me.
But, they sell their ticket. That afternoon, Wednesday afternoons, is $2 per head. Weekends is $15 per head. And it's a rope tow, and it's a T-bar. And you go out and you get used equipment for $15 for skis or boots. All of that is readily accessible. And Greg was challenging that notion of like, is it really are we just fixated on maybe the luxury resort experience and losing sight and not telling the story about?
Yeah, it could be. It definitely could be. But, there's a lot of room between the super entry-level sport resorts, the Northeast Slopes, the Middlebury ski snowball.
Yeah.
There's difference between that and Vail and Aspen and the bigger resorts. It's that middle of the market that, that middle of the market really, really relies on increased day traffic from this lower end of the market at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about season passes into that middle of the market. We're talking about people who decide to go up there for the day.
Yeah.
And if this middle of the market gets absorbed into these larger passes and in effect drive up the cost of their window rate lift tickets, that impacts all of their discounted tickets to get in there. I just don't know if someone's going to be able to make the leap from, hey, I went to Neshoba on a Friday night and my whole family skied under the lights for $100 and it was awesome.
Yeah.
But how do we then convince them, to go to Mount Snow and that same singular day experience, tip to tail costs them $450.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big jump. And then you start to talk about how do we get those people to identify as skiers and riders?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. And I'm not picking on Mount Snow because they'd spend the same amount here. I mean, at Jay, it might be a little bit less, but it's in that same universe.
Well, obviously, it's a progression. You get them in the front door and you start stepping them up. You got to first get them. You got to get that. You got to set that hook, though, and I think there's a whole nother chapter to this about those entry those feeder resorts and those ski hills where those first experiences are created, and what we can do as an industry to support those groups.
But it's identifying it as an issue, which people like you have, which we're all thankful for, and smart people like Greg who look at it as an issue and give his feedback on it. It just has to be more consistent. It has to be more participation. We've got to, once we identify it as a problem, how do we throw resources at it? You know, whenever there's a conversation that comes up about a national ground campaign to talk about skiing, people bristle at it.